Okay, welcome back to Stories with Steve. Now, this is a story about a lady that couldn't take hints and cues and stuff like that. And this is also to do with the kitchen, but the greater facility area too, because this lady switched positions there or whatever. So this lady comes into the job place that I was at through the same program that the drunken dishwasher came through. They were basically in a program where I guess the government had been taking care of them so long that they were like, hey, there's nothing physically wrong with you. You know, can you attempt to try to work? And we'll still give you some kind of benefits, but you got to attempt to do something because there's nothing physically wrong with you, right? So she basically comes into the job through that, right? And I think she had lied and said something about some kind of job experience in working in kitchens, but she came to a program because she hadn't worked in, a decade or two. So I don't know what kind of experience she claimed she had. So she ends up working at the place, and she wasn't really good on doing like banquet food or high end food or making multi ethnic, kind of food of where she had a wide palette, let's say, and knew how to make all different kinds of food. She was just kind of good on bar and grill kind of food, you know. So she worked at the bar and grill, and she basically made like mediocre burgers, mediocre chicken sandwiches, nothing special. Nobody was going, oh yeah, when she's there, I gotta get a burger, or if you get my drift. So she's working over there, but she's one of these people that puts out like lackluster work, like enough work to not get fired, but not enough to get any kind of praise or a promotion or a raise, right? And she's also heavy into being moody and nasty and conspiracy theories and everything, right? And she had a nasty attitude, and she would give attitude to anybody and everybody that worked there except for the dishwashers because I guess she thought they were beneath her. So anybody who was male and was like management or also worked doing cooking work was an op to her or something like that, right? And nothing was ever her fault, blah blah blah. So she's working in the smaller kitchen, making like mediocre burgers, mediocre wings, you know, mediocre stuff basically. And she's putting out these conspiracies that she thinks everybody else in the job is conspiring against her. And it was all either because she was a woman or it was racial or ethnic or, this person is taller than her, this person is shorter than her. It was always something crazy like that. And to tell you the truth, if you're around all these other people, nobody ever spoke about her. It was like they knew she was over there, but that was it. Nobody really cared. At one point, she had an arch nemesis. They moved another woman who was equally as crazy with her. This lady was a very tiny, tiny lady who, I want to say 4'9" or something like that. She needed like a milk crate to kind of stand on to do the orders. And she was equally as crazy, but she was like to the other side of the spectrum where this lady was kind of into the conspiracy theory, kind of leftist side, the lady that I was initially talking about. And this other lady was like some super right wing Republican, 4'9" lady that listened to Rush Limbaugh every day. And, Rush Limbaugh could be like, women don't deserve to have rights. And she'd be like, tell them, even though she's a woman herself. So now these two are going back and forth, back and forth. So now she's going over to the big kitchen, and the chef's in there having to deal with like, God knows how many banquets, parties, and weddings. He's managing the little kitchen as well, everything to do with the food and stuff that's going in and out of the place. And she's over there complaining about the tiny little Republican lady, complaining that people are conspiring against her. Like I said, nobody even like really ever talked about her. Like she wasn't a subject of anything. But in her mind, people were conspiring against her, and it must be known and be stopped. Now, what she thought they were doing in these conspiracies, God knows, it was all in her head, right? So she got to the point where eventually the little tiny Republican Rush Limbaugh fan ended up because she was older. She stopped working there and left. But she still had these conspiracy theories about all these other men that she worked with or whatever. So, and she kind of alienated all the other people that she worked with in the kitchen, except for the dishwashers who she would occasionally say perverted stuff to them about doing stuff in a freezer and steam coming off of some body part, whatever that was about. So now when it comes time, because this place was seasonal, so in the winter they would kind of lay people off, but for the spring, summer, and fall, you would have work. You would have a lot of work, and for like a month or two in the winter, you go on unemployment. And if you were a good worker, they bring you back. They called you back. But her, because she alienated everybody in the kitchen, you know, and nobody really liked being around her because she was always accusing them of having a conspiracy against her. She wasn't going to get the call back to come back to the kitchen. But there was this guy who looked like an extra from The Sopranos, but it was like a supreme diva, right? And he was the only person that kind of liked her because they both had this moody attitude and whatever. And they kind of, I guess, liked each other's energy. So he brought her back. Now she's doing housekeeping. So she went from working in the kitchen to now doing housekeeping. But her work ethic was the same. So where she was putting out mediocre burgers and mediocre wings and chicken sandwiches and stuff like that, with giving people a nasty attitude. Now she's doing this with and getting rid of garbage and so on and so forth. So she would, go and clean the bathrooms. There was like two public bathrooms, a bridal bathroom that would occasionally get used when there was a wedding, and then there was like one or two staff bathrooms. One for like the management staff upstairs, and then there was one in the basement. Now, when she would clean these bathrooms, again, this was lower than mediocre, because you went in there and you didn't see too much, but generally when somebody cleans a bathroom, it has a clean smell, whether it smells like bleach, Fabuloso, Lysol, or something. If you went into a bathroom after she cleaned it, it kind of just smelled like hot water and pee. Like she steamed pee or like peed in the mop bucket and then mopped it across the floor. And this was like the men's bathroom, the women's bathroom, the unisex upstairs and downstairs bathrooms. They just smelled like steamy pee, When the guy that, like I said, they liked each other's vibes or whatever, he tried to get her more hours and had her work parties. Now, there was a few different areas where there would be garbages, and naturally, if you want to get a garbage out of the can, it's ideal to get it before it goes all the way to the top, because then it could be incredibly heavy, especially if you're a lady and you have trouble lifting up heavy stuff. It's most optimum to get it when it's kind of medium to climbing up. Now, these waitresses were trying to be friendly with her. They were like, hey, because they knew their manager already didn't like her. So they would be like, hey, that garbage is getting kind of full over there. Maybe you should get it before so-and-so sees. And she'd be like, what they think? They think it's my job. Like, well, actually it is. You're doing housekeeping and cleaning. You're basically supposed to take the garbage out and at least bring it to the back where the other housekeeping people who can actually drive it down to the dumpster or one of the dishwashers or something will actually dispose of it. And he's supposed to keep the bathrooms presentable for the customers to go in and out and use the bathroom, as well as the employee stuff. So, you don't go in there and it's in disarray and you're in the middle of your shift and you're like, what's going on? But she was, she gave out this kind of, like I said, lackluster work. It just got worse. And then now that she's working in this setting where she's doing the housekeeping, now, again, everything with the conspiracies. Everything is a conspiracy. All the waitresses are out to get her. The waiters are out to get her. The bartender is out to get her. They hired this dude from Sierra Leone, real cool dude, Musa, great guy, right? And he was one of the happiest people you would ever meet. He was happy to have a job, real friendly or whatever. But with him too, She had a conspiracy against him. He was out to get her for whatever reason inside her head. And then their manager that they both kind of worked under, he was out to get her too. Like again, like I said, these people, I never heard them talk bad about her or anything. They would just, like, oh, she gets off at such and such. Okay, you know. So being she made herself like a complete, this stressful person that gave highly mediocre work or very lackluster work at that, and she accused anybody of conspiracy. Like everything was a conspiracy. Like I said, if it was they were male, it was because she was female. If it was because they're this ethnicity, it's that ethnicity. You know, she was even complaining about her own boyfriend, and apparently he was from like Belize or something, and I think he just went somewhere and seen somebody else from Belize, and they just started talking about some stuff about their ethnicity, and she was upset about that, and she's like, them Belizeans. When the Belizeans get around other Belizeans, how they act. And I'm like, no, I don't know how they act. I mean, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, that's how some other people do. I'm like, well, that's kind of how ethnicities will sometimes, if you go to a place and there's not that many of your ethnicity, and then you see somebody who shares the same ethnicity or religion or whatever as you might have some kinship with them. You might want to talk about some cultural stuff or religious stuff or food or whatever. It's not they're conspiring against you. They're just talking about something that they have in common. But this lady was Miss Conspiracy. Everything was a conspiracy. It was because of this, because of that. She was taller than them, she was shorter than them, she was wider, she was skinnier. They were this ethnicity, she was that ethnicity. She's a female, they're a male. They're from this borough, she's from that borough. Nothing could ever be her fault. Nothing could ever be her fault. Nothing could ever be that she gave out lackluster cooking, work, or that she was, all the bathrooms smell like steamed pee. Nothing had to do with that. It was all conspiracies. Everybody in the world was conspiring against her. Every human being on earth was conspiring against her, apparently even her own boyfriend. So now when it came time again, Mr. Diva, who would vibe with her, he ended up leaving the company. So when it comes time to rehire people and she's calling back, the manager that dealt with the front of the house, the waitresses and the bartenders and stuff like that, she wasn't looking to hire her back. Neither was the head of maintenance and stuff like that. They didn't like her attitude and like constantly being accused of stuff that they weren't doing, plus her giving out, crappy work. So she was consistently calling, but at the time, one of my homeboys, his wife was looking for work, and I ended up, like plugging her in, and I was like, hey, they're looking for work. If you want to do, if you want to do like some housekeeping, they got hours and such, blah, blah, blah. They ended up hiring my one of my homeboys' wives, and it was night and day. She came, nice attitude, wasn't accusing nobody or nothing. If she cleaned the place, it smelled like bleach and Fabuloso and disinfectant and flowers. It didn't smell like, steamed pee and nasty attitude. So they ended up thanking me for, recommending my friend's wife because she was nice. She was a breath of fresh air. If she came into a room, basically, she brightened up the room instead of like, the other lady bring doom and gloom. The other lady came in and a cloud of rain came in and thunder, like, because you're like, oh God, what is she going to accuse me of now? And when my friend's wife came, it was like a cloud of sunshine, and a cloud of sunshine, and she did her job, and she did her job well, to where she could get a promotion, she could get more hours. She, like if they were looking to give somebody more work and she wanted to, they would call her. So that's the story of Miss Conspiracy, how she kind of like sabotaged herself at the job because everybody was out to get her. Everybody on the planet, everybody in the galaxy. If you're from a far, far away galaxy, you were out to get it too.